Keen Software House, the developers of Space Engineers, have been working on a new engine called V-Rage 3. Over the past few months, we've received a lot of teasers of the amazing things this engine is capable of, and this week we got an absolutely mind-blowing update that blew everyone that saw it away. So let's check out everything we've been shown, and make sure to watch to the end of the video to learn about a very special announcement about the future of Space Engineers. So, the best place to start is water. Support for fluids, more specifically water, is going to be natively supported within V-Rage 3. But this isn't water like the water mod adds. This is water that flows, that reacts to changes in its environment, such as being displaced by a ship hitting it, or, as you can see in this video here, it reacts to destruction in the terrain. As you can see, a gap has been made in the side of this mountain, and the water is flowing through it. I should mention that all the footage shown today is very early development footage. And all of this footage is from different times during the development and not necessarily in chronological order. So what you're seeing here isn't necessarily representative of what the current working version of V-Rage 3 looks like. There's so much footage of the V-Rage 3 water online. Here you can see water flowing down from above and then flowing around the corner. And here's some footage of the developers messing around with the waves in the new engine. Now I'm sure when you're thinking of water, the first thing you're thinking about is performance. Some of you, I can guarantee, are already worried about your computer catching fire with all this water. But don't worry, they did a live stream 2-3 years ago where they spoke about water, and there's lots of little tricks they're going to do to make sure that this water is performance friendly. And additionally, due to changes in the engine, the developers of V-Rage 3 expect it will have much better performance than the current Space Engineers engine does. This is due to a couple of things, like improved multi-threading, general havoc and physics improvements, and video liking and channel subscribing behaviour. I definitely recommend researching the last one, as it will massively improve your life. Here is a really good example of the water being reactive. You can see that this ship here shoots a hole in the dam, and the water begins to flow out of it. And in a second it shoots a second hole, and even more water starts to flow out of it. And you can see the water is flowing out from the dam into the valley below, and later in the video it zooms out, and you can see the water flowing out from the dam and slowly filling up this valley. This is going to be so good. I have so many ideas already. Just seeing them messing around with this water, oh, I'm so excited. Here's another bit of test footage. In this one, they just straight up delete the dam. You can see there's a little bit of lag, but once the lag subsides, the water just flows straight out of the dam and into the valley. Again, this isn't necessarily representative of what it will look like in the future. I think this is quite an old video from memory, but you can see it flows all the way out of the valley into the gaps in the mountains. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to flood so many people's bases. You have no idea. And here's a little bit of footage of what it looks like going under the water. You can see it's darker under the water, and I really wanted to show this footage to better demonstrate that the water isn't just this big blue blob like it appears in some of the other teasers. It is going to look like water eventually. It's just while they're testing the physics, it looks like they're using a lower quality texture and model for testing purposes. And also, I really want to build an underwater base. Please, Keen, please let me do it. Water isn't the only thing coming in V-Rage 3, as it also appears to have a massive graphical overhaul. As you can see in this teaser here, which came out recently, the textures of this asteroid are majorly improved. Massive difference. I don't really think about it when I'm playing Space Engineers because I don't really play it for the graphics, but man, the asteroid quality is absolutely awful. Asteroids haven't really changed that much since the game was released 11 years ago, just being flat grey rocks really. So compared to this teaser, oh, this looks so much better. It isn't just the graphics of the asteroids that have been improved. There's also a major overhaul to the way voxels generate and how the voxels can be edited as well. I should probably mention that voxels are what planets and asteroids are made of. So everything from mountains to ore patches to asteroids to ice lakes, basically everything that's not made out of blocks. There was a teaser last month where they showed off improvements to the voxel hands tool, which is a tool that exists in Space Engineers, but it's not very good. It's hard to explain how this is better if you haven't experienced voxel hands in Space Engineers, but trust me, just looking at this footage, there's some very exciting things afoot. This editing of voxels is just so much better. The picture here is from Space Engineers, which is on V-Rage 2. This is the Earth-like planet, and it doesn't look great, let's be honest. But if you go over to this picture, oh, this looks so much better. I absolutely despise the Earth-like planet. Shout out to my best boy Pertam, Best Planet. It's so much more interesting geographically. And not only does this planet look more high quality than the Space Engineers planets we're used to, but also the biome diversity just looks so much better. Look at this massive mountain, and then this deserty area in between. And then this area up here, the pole, it's got like a crater in the middle. Oh, if this hasn't got you excited, let's give you a couple of close-ups of this. I think this is an older video, as you can see by the rough looking grass texture on the right, but this is an example of the new terrain generation in V-Rage 3, and it looks amazing. Look at the amount of detail Space Engineers is just flat with a bit of craggy areas on the side of mountains. The terrain generation here looks so good, it almost looks like a real life place. There's some hills near where I live, and this looks exactly like a view from the top of those hills. Here you can see a mountain in front of what looks like some sort of lake or maybe a river. And again, this just looks so much better than what we currently have in Space Engineers. And out of the planetary terrain I've showed you so far, I think this is definitely my favourite example of it. As I mentioned, Pertam is my favourite planet, and it's because it has stuff like this. It has ravines and canyons in it. But even then, this canyon is so much better than anything Pertam has to offer. Pertam is my favourite planet, and that's a 10. This is like a 200. Leagues better. These cliff faces look amazing. If hills and mountains doesn't interest you, how about caves? Here is an image of a cave generated in V-Rage 3. You can see it has a pool of water inside it, and it has these little bits hanging down. And you can also see this vastly improved stone texture in the background as well. If we come over to this shot, this looks good, doesn't it? Look how cinematic this looks. It looks like this cave is quite high up, and it has 2 entrances, and the light spilling through this entrance looks really good. I tell you what, with the new encounter systems and the ability to have caves in V-Rage 3, I can see some very exciting things coming, let me tell you. Not necessarily as exciting as caves, but I really like these new clouds. When I'm flying my ship, I want to fly up through these clouds, and I want a little hole to appear as I fly through and disperse the clouds. Oh no, I want to do a ship battle in a cloud. Oh, that's such a good idea. If you're listening, Keen, if that's not possible in V-Rage 3, it needs to be. These clouds look so good. I want to have a fighter battle in one. Please. One of the most important things in Space Engineers to me is destruction. That's the thing I've always loved about the game. And in V-Rage 3, they are bringing massive improvements to that as well. Currently in Space Engineers, when a non-armor block is destroyed, it kind of just disappears. In V-Rage 3, the blocks break into pieces, as you can see in this example here. Obviously this is just a static example, but the applications to this are really exciting, as this is going to make destruction look so much better. You get into combat, get shot, and rather than your turrets and thrusters just disappearing when they take damage, instead, bits of them will fly off and go everywhere, and there will be a debris field left in your wake. There's actually a visual example of this here. This fighter crashes into those blocks, and then bits of turret actually start flying off everywhere. Oh, this looks so good. I'm really excited for this. I hope there's a way they can make this really dynamic, so you can get lots of different bits rather than the same bits flying off every time. There's another example here with this cockpit. You can see they kind of like cut the cockpit up, and then bits of it start to fly off. Oh, look at that massive bit of cockpit fly off. That looks so good. Here's another crash example here, and look how good this looks. As it hits the platform, just bits of block go everywhere. If you did this in the current game, you just hit the platform and kind of just come to a stop, but this makes it look way better. One of the things they're also looking at is how crashes work as well. Not just in the terms of the blocks coming off, but how they physically look. If you crash in Space Engineers currently, you pretty much hit a voxel, a bit of your ship gets damaged, and then you stop. In V-Rage 3, they're improving that by making it look a bit more natural. As you can see in this demo here, the ship crashes into the asteroid, and then the ship actually penetrates through the asteroid, eventually coming to a stop when it runs out of momentum. Here's an example of a crash in engine, and look how the ship hits the sand, and then it kind of pushes through the sand until it comes to a stop. And this is a 100% more organic looking crash than what you currently get in Space Engineers. I wanted to include as little Space Engineers footage as possible in this video, just so you wouldn't get confused with what is current Space Engineers and what is V-Rage 3, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when you crash a ship into sand currently in Space Engineers, and you just hit the ground and you bounce off. You take a little bit of damage, a bit of the front of the ship is gone. It's just nowhere near as good as how it looks in V-Rage 3. This isn't from the more recent batch of teasers, but one thing they spoke about is making different types of voxels have different properties. So in this GIF here, you can see that in the top part, when this ship hits the ground, because it's made of sand, it penetrates into the ground much further. However, on the bottom example, where it's made of stone, it hits the ground and then kind of bounces off, a bit like how current Space Engineers works. And there's a second example here, and you can see on the top the ship crashes into the sand and makes a much bigger deformation, and on the bottom it kind of just skids along the ground. This week we got 2 massive updates on V-Rage 3. The first update came in the form of this video, which was released on the Space Engineers newsletter. This shows a look at a new system called the 25cm Unified Grid System. As it's the Unified Grid System, this means that small grid and large grid blocks are now one in V-Rage 3. No longer do you need to mess with subgrids, no longer do you need to mess with rotors and hinges to get your large and small ships to connect. It's all in one system. And it goes further than that, as you can go even smaller than small grid, to 25 centimeters. The level of detail you're going to be able to have on your ships is going to be insane. But it goes further than this. It's not just that you can place small and large blocks on the same grid. You can also place blocks in the same block space as other blocks. The example in this teaser is where they place two sloped blocks opposite each other, something that is nowhere near possible in the game currently. In a live stream, which we'll talk about later, they also said that if you had the medical room, and there's that area of the medical room where you can't place a block, in V-Rage 3 you would be able to. It will only use the block space that it visually takes up. Later in this teaser we also see a catwalk, and you can also see that when they place the catwalk, they're able to place a second catwalk on top of it. So this catwalk, only being 25 centimeters tall, can have a second catwalk on top of it that is also 25 centimeters tall, and you can probably keep placing more catwalks on top of that forever. This teaser appears to show us that the new engine has ray traced global illumination. If you don't know what that is, basically it's really good lighting, like the next level of lighting. Effectively, light hits a surface, it bounces off, and then reflects back onto another surface. And considering how the lighting is in Space Engineers currently, this is a monumental upgrade, a massive improvement to the game. A really clear example of this, you can see that there are lights placed inside this corridor, and from the outside of the corridor, there's no light bleed, which is something you cannot achieve in Space Engineers currently. If you place those lights down in Space Engineers, the light would leak out from inside because it doesn't properly simulate how light works. Whereas this new system functions much more like how light works in real life. In the middle of this teaser, you can see that they copy the structure they are building and then paste it down again. However, this isn't actually copy and pasting. This is part of a new blueprinting system. Effectively, if you take a section of something, you can copy it to your hotbar like you would a block, and then you can place it down, again like a block. So you can build truly modular ships. Say you have a thruster pack, or maybe a section of a wall that you want to keep using over and over, you can blueprint that, put it on your hotbar, and at any point, you can place that down as it is. When they were talking about this feature on Livestream, they mentioned that one of the things they want to improve in this new engine is the way you build in survival. They said that improvements are coming, and this part is a quote, to make it as easy as creative. I have no idea what that means, but building in survival is definitely my #1 gripe with the game, so if they have a new way to improve that, it would be more than welcome. I'll briefly mention that there appears to be a new skybox in this teaser, not necessarily as interesting as the other features in this teaser, but it's definitely worth mentioning. And speaking of minor things I also wanted to mention, these lights here are entirely new. This light does not exist in Space Engineers. Most of the assets we see in V-Rage 3 teasers are repurposed Space Engineers assets or very simple assets for testing, but this light is very high quality, appears to have an entirely brand new model and texture, and this could have major implications. One of the big discussions about V-Rage 3 is that V-Rage 3 isn't technically a game. V-Rage 3 is an engine that the game is built on top of. So, would the game that is built with V-Rage 3 be Space Engineers, or would it be something else? If they're building new space-based assets, I would suggest that potentially it would be Space Engineers. Space Engineers 2. To go with that light, there's also this new catwalk which I mentioned earlier. It's similar to some of the blocks we have in game currently, but it's not exactly the same. Anyway, this week I mentioned that we got 2 huge reveals about V-Rage 3, so let's talk about the second one, shall we? For the 11th anniversary of Space Engineers, the developers did a live stream where they showed off pretty much everything I've covered in this video, and also did a Q&A about various things to do with V-Rage 3. And also cheese. There was a lot of discussion about cheese. For starters, they've said that they developed a tool for exporting blueprints from Space Engineers to V-Rage 3. I know that there's some doubters in the community that don't believe V-Rage 3 will lead to a new Space Engineers. I feel like the fact that you'll be able to convert blueprints from Space Engineers to this new engine pretty much indicates that Space Engineers 2 is probably on the horizon. They've said that this converter won't be exact due to the way the new block system works, but most of the blocks and the shape of your ship will definitely be transferred. They also mentioned that the top speed of V-Rage 3 would probably be different, but they didn't want to go into too much detail and said that'd be something they talk about in the future. But for most people, this would be a very welcome change. They mentioned briefly that they have plans to include orbital mechanics in V-Rage 3, so this would be a planet orbiting a sun potentially, and then maybe having a moon orbiting around it. But they did mention that this isn't something that's confirmed to be coming, but this is something they definitely want to look into. They also mentioned that there are currently 70 people working on V-Rage 3 at Keen, which is a lot more than the 5 people that initially worked on Space Engineers. And if 5 people, obviously more people work there now, but if 5 people made Space Engineers to begin with, imagine what 70 people can do with V-Rage 3. And more specifically, Space Engineers 2. One last thing to mention is that they said news for this is coming this year, very soon in fact. They alluded to this news coming out in next month's Space Engineers newsletter. And if it's even bigger than this, what's coming? An official announcement of Space Engineers 2? Whilst all signs point to an existence of a future Space Engineers 2, nothing has been officially announced yet. It's possible that they wouldn't want to announce the development of a new game whilst they are still updating the current Space Engineers. However, I have made the suggestion in the past that once endgame stuff makes its way into Space Engineers, which has just happened in the last update for the game, that a sequel to Space Engineers would likely be next after that. Maybe they're announcing early access? Keen and their sister company Good AI have a tendency to release their games in early access. And during the live stream, Marek Rosa, the CEO of Keen Software House, said that he doesn't like holding on to things without people knowing about them. He wants people to see them and interact with them. Or it could be a teaser for an even bigger feature, even bigger than the unified grid system, that is coming in V-Rage 3. Either way, I am very excited, and I'll definitely be covering it on this channel when it comes out. So let me know the feature in V-Rage 3 you're most looking forward to, and if you want to keep up to date with V-Rage 3 and Space Engineers 2, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel, as it sounds like there's going to be a lot of exciting news coming soon. A special thanks to Clone, Briarrose, Tarantula Fudge, Summit, The Wildcat, Hamish Drower, The Whiskman, Splurgeburger, Penguin, Taurus 1834, Banu, Nicola David, Noah Griffin, and Hydrocat. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button.